You are about to enter Chuck versus the podcast, the place for people who love Chuck and the people who work on Chuck. The only show that takes you behind the scenes with the stars.
Yvonne Strahovski.
Zachary Levi. Joshua Gomez.
Ryan McParland.
Adam Balba.
Sarah Lancaster.
Interactive interviews.
Julia Ling.
Phil Clemmer.
All the cast.
Dixon High. Tony Hale. Scott Krinsky. Mark Christopher Lawrence.
Anita Federici.
Fun hosts.
This is Mel. This is Liz. Now you can see how wacko we are.
The writers.
Allie Adler. Scott Rosenbaum. Zev Barrow.
The editors.
Matt Barber. Jeff Granville. Kevin Mock.
Contests.
We are giving away a Chuck press kit.
The directors.
Jason Lindley. Norman Buckley.
The guest stars.
Steve Austin.
Kristen Group.
The music.
This is Tim Jones.
Guest hosts.
I'm Kaylee from Toronto.
Conventions.
Lights come up, and here comes Jester out on stage.
Set visits.
This is the guy right here.
And much more. Are you ready? This is Gray.
This is Mel.
This is Liz.
And we want to welcome you to Chuck versus the Podcast, episode 60 for Wednesday, June 9th, 2010. And Chuck's in hiatus, but we're not. We're here, ready to give you the news and a whole bunch of other stuff. So what have we got today?
First up, we have exciting news. Yvonne Strahovski has finally found Twitter.
Woohoo!
And boy, Twitter has found her right back. You can follow Yvonne at Y_Strahovski. And it is her. We've had an email from her saying, that's me, I promise. So be sure to check her out if you're on Twitter. Follow her and keep up with what she's doing. She's in LA briefly right now between filming Killer Elite. She'll be heading back to Australia shortly. But we're really excited to be able to keep up with her on her world travels.
Mm-hmm. And she's moved quickly. She started. She started around Thursday last week, and people didn't really realize right away. But once people got wind that she was there, she went from I think 2,000 followers on Saturday morning to over 11,000 on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So no surprise. But she's actually tweeting, and I think once she gets the hang of it, she'll be a pretty frequent tweeter, I think.
I think so.
And one of the things that Yvonne has been tweeting about is the event that she's hosting, which is a tennis tournament charity event to benefit Kenmare Rescue Society, the animal shelter from which Yvonne adopted her dog Chazzy. Cute little thing. Mm-hmm. And the event takes place Saturday, July 24th from 5 to 8 p.m. at the Weddington Tennis Courts in Studio City. For more information and to register for the event, you can visit the Kenmare Rescue Society website at www.kenmarerescue.org.
Mm-hmm. A lot of people have been saying that that's a very lucky dog to have Yvonne Strahovski as her owner. But please do check out that site. Please support her. And if you're in the LA area, now I know that that's going on the same weekend as Comic-Con. But if you're not going to Comic-Con, I'm sure she'd love your support.
I think there are also some Chuck fans who are planning to road trip up to LA to that event from Comic-Con.
Mm-hmm.
So keep an eye out for that. Some information about that we'll be posting once the plans are firmed up.
Mm-hmm. And I did want to clarify, a lot of people initially were reacting to that and saying, oh no, she's not going to be at the Chuck panel. That was based on the fact that the last couple of years the Chuck panel has been at around that time. But we don't know for sure that that's when the Chuck panel is. The schedule hasn't been released yet. So her publicist is making them aware of this. And so hopefully they'll be able to work it out that the Chuck panel will not conflict with that. We don't know yet. We'll let you know as soon as we do.
Yes.
Another of the actors on Chuck, Julia Ling, has some developments. And we're really, really excited. We love Julia. She's awesome. She's the sweetest person in real life and a great character on the show. Anna Wu, and of course she had a little bit of a guest role late in season 3, and everybody's just hoping that she can be back in season 4. And as a matter of fact, there's a new website, weloveannawu.com, that has been started. It's a great site. If you love the Anna character, if you love Julia Ling, I urge you to go to that site and check it out. There's a lot of great content there, including a couple of the interviews that we've had with her and a lot more. A lot of the latest developments about what she's doing. And there's a petition there that I urge you to check out. It helps everybody to get Anna back in the story. And I think there's actually some really creative ways that they could do that.
I think so. I think they've set up some interesting ends for bringing the character back.
Mm-hmm. And everybody wants to see her kick some butt, so
yeah.
Hopefully we'll get that.
I'm seeing a lot of comments saying, how about if we alternate Anna and Karina coming back in various episodes? So that could be interesting.
Yeah.
Be sure to check that out. In other news, we have Benita Friederici and her husband, John Billingsley, who you may recognize as Dr. Phlox on Star Trek Enterprise. They are going to be the VIPs of SFB's Evening With series on June 19th in Bournemouth, in the UK. You can visit www.eveningwith.com for details, but in essence, it's an evening with General Beckman and Dr. Phlox.
Very cool.
Which, I mean, yeah, how much geekier can you get? Well, you can get geekier as it happens. The T2 convention is happening this coming weekend, actually. It's going to be the second Chuck convention is what they're calling it. It's going to be on Friday through Sunday. It's a Star Fury event that I believe is in London. Originally, Yvonne was going to attend, but because of her filming schedule with the Killer Elite, she's had to pull her appearance. But it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. And some people that went last year just said it was a blast. So we encourage you to, if you're in those areas, check those two events out and then report back. Tell us what happened.
And if you remember Benita's interview, she has,
yes.
They both have so many great stories.
They do. They really do. And they play off each other just beautifully. So it was, I'm a Star Trek fan and I'm the one that was interviewing Benita. So it was kind of surreal to be talking to her and then having Dr. Phlox chiming in the background. I can't imagine the two of them in person. That's going to be a treat.
Yeah.
Well, Zachary Levi has also been busy. He is at the Monte Carlo Television Festival this week promoting Chuck in Europe. The journalist from Scene TV Buzz gave Chuck fans the opportunity to submit questions for him last week. Watch for the results of that interview to be posted at chucktv.net.
Mm-hmm. And speaking about overseas, we had word from Chuck D., a fan from the UK, who visited with Robert Duncan McNeil, another Star Trek connection. He's, of course, a director and executive producer on Chuck. And he was at this weekend's Collector Mania in Milton Keynes, UK. And Chuck was excited to hear that the writers are back at work and some advanced production, even on season 4, begins soon. So very, very exciting. I mean, though we won't see Chuck till the fall, what that means is that we're going to start getting more spoilers even and word of cool stuff that's happening, maybe even some casting news. So it's so exciting to see the ball rolling already.
That's right. I was not ready for them to come back quite so soon. I'm getting a little excited about the fact that we might start getting some tiny tidbits of information here in, just a couple of weeks, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in other news, our second Chuck fan survey went up and we had a really good response. We expected that we would have more respondents this time than last time. We ran the first one in November before the season started, and traffic was, of course, lower then because Chuck wasn't on the air. So we launched our second one right after the season finale, and we did have more respondents. And we asked almost exactly the same questions. We added one new one based on what happened in season 3, but the bulk of the questions were the same so that we could do a genuine compare and contrast with the previous survey. So let me just run you through some of the answers and some of the results real quick. First of all, we had 1,507 people answer in November, and this year this time around we had 2,574 people. The demographics broke out to be almost exactly the same. 63.9% were male and 31.6% were female. 66.6% of those who responded were age 30 or younger, which is a little bit up from last time. But we did want to just, clarify that this is an online survey on a fan site. So we're just by default, I think, more likely to get the younger fan base answering the questions, answering the survey. So, it's really interesting to see those numbers, but just remember that there are extenuating factors going on here.
Yeah.
But really interesting. The first question is, which element of Chuck is the main reason that you watch? And during season 3 and before, there were debates throughout the fandom about which element of Chuck was most important to the fans, which is one of the reasons that we did this survey in the first place. So the first question forced fans to choose the one element they saw as the main reason they watched the show. Last time, it was Chuck and Sarah by a landslide. 41% of respondents chose that as the most important element to them. This time, after the season 3 finale, the number one answer was Team Bartowski.
Wow.
Was the most important element. 36.6% of people chose that as the main reason they watched the show. It was then closely followed by the Chuck and Sarah relationship with 35.8% of the vote. So there was less than 1% separating the first and second place responses. Comedy was 11%, and the hero's journey was 8.5%. People choosing them as the main reason that they watched the show. So that was that was a major shift.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to wonder if that's because, Chuck and Sarah are resolved now. Therefore, people are more interested and they were resolved, around mid-season. So people were more interested in the spy, the teen component of the show. Question 2 was rank the various elements of Chuck by most favorite to least favorite. And this one, I know it was tough. We designed it that way. We wanted people to really think about what goes into making up the series and what it is that they like the most. Last time, the software was allowing people to rank more than one element as the most important or least important, and this time it didn't. So there was that's a factor in the results this time. But the questions, the elements could be ranked from 1, which was least favorite, to 10, which was most favorite. And 39% of people who responded said the Chuck and Sarah relationship was their favorite element of the show, which, if you remember, it was the second most important part of the show in question 1. So that was interesting. Then 4% actually said it was their least favorite part of the show. So you just gotta, make sure we get both sides of the coin there. Team Bartowski was second place with 35% of the vote, and 2% saying that was their least favorite. So back in November, 54% said that Chuck and Sarah was their favorite, and 37% said it was Team Bartowski. And then the comedy and the hero's journey were third and fourth again in that question. Now, the new question this time was rank the season 3 developments in order of most favorite to least favorite. And this was, specifically dealing with what happened in season 3. So as I think everyone could have predicted, Chuck and Sarah officially becoming a couple ran away with this category. Had 59.6% of survey takers ranked it as the most important, most favorite thing in season 3. And then a distant second with 13.8% of the vote was Morgan finding out Chuck's secret.
Mm-hmm.
The least favorite was Orion's death.
Yeah.
Yeah. With 38.7% giving that a 1 on the scale of 1 to 10. And then the Buy More exploding was the second least favorite development in season 3. Just real quickly, question 4 was, do you feel strongly enough about any element of Chuck to stop watching if the storyline doesn't go the way you want? And again, this was something that came out of the kind of furor before the season had even started about some things that we were hearing and what was going to happen in season 3. And so, and then, there were some things that happened in season 3 that were rather polarizing. So we were pleased that we thought to include this question comparison. The results have changed just a little bit since November. 86.5% said that no, there's nothing they feel so strongly about that they would stop watching if the storyline doesn't go the way that they want. And that's compared to 82% who answered no last time. So, yeah, more people, I think, are feeling secure about the show at this point. So that means that 13.5% now are saying that they will stop watching if a storyline doesn't go the way that they want, whereas 18% did back in November. And then if someone answered yes to that question, they went on to another question that asked them which element was so important to them that they would stop watching if it didn't go the way they wanted. And so of the few people, the 13.5% of respondents who answered yes, 72.4% said that it was the Chuck and Sarah relationship that they would quit watching if it didn't go the way they wanted, which was to be expected, although that was the number one element in November, but 86% cited that as the thing that they were most concerned about in November versus 72.4% this time. So big change there. 9% said they'd stop watching over Team Bartowski, and 5.3% said they'd stop watching if the comedy didn't go the way they wanted, which, again, I don't quite know how that would work. But those were both increases over the responses in November. And then we asked people what they thought about spoilers, because we know that some people love spoilers and others don't. We've had some questions and comments from people saying why would somebody want spoilers at all? So we have that question in there. I know Gray is a no spoilers kind of guy, where I'm a all spoilers kind of person, and I think Liz falls somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 49.9% of the respondents say they love spoilers. 31% said that they don't seek them out, but they do read them. So almost 81% of Chuck fans are into being spoiled, is what that tells us. But 16.5% said they hate spoilers, and I know Gray was one of them. And then 2.3% said they don't trust spoilers, which is probably smart. They're probably the smartest people that responded to this survey. So in conclusion, we learned that the online Chuck fandom at least skews young and male, that Team Bartowski rose in importance to equal the Chuck and Sarah relationship this season. And while we wonder how the results might have differed had we surveyed fans mid-season, we suspect that this balance of what's deemed important has to do with how the season ended and the fact that Chuck and Sarah are together, and that we have this really intriguing spy storyline that happened right at the end. So we also see that Chuck fans are slightly less ready to throw in the towel if a specific storyline doesn't go the way that they want, but there is a little more concern about the status of Team Bartowski than there was previously. So that, in a nutshell, is what we learned from this second fan survey. We want to thank everybody who did take the survey. Yeah. And it's interesting stuff. And we'll look forward to running another one. Probably not before season 4 starts, but we might do something mid-season. We'll see.
And so now what we're going to do, we're going to have a test to see which of those numbers you remember. They're really, really interesting to study when you look at them on a page, and you can do that at chucktv.net. All those numbers are posted there.
That's right.
Yep. So we're going to move on right now to the things that we love, listener emails. We love hearing from you. And we hear from our old friend, Jorge Saldana from Chile. Hey, Jorge. And Jorge writes, "Hi, folks. I was catching up with your great podcast, and the Jeffster episodes were really good. But I loved the one with Tim Jones. I remember back in the day when I wanted to know about a soundtrack release with Tim's music, and now that I hear that a project is on the make, I was so thrilled. I can only hope it's released soon. I remember one of the cues that I loved the most from the first season was the one at the end of Hard Salami, when Bryce turned out to be alive. The same was used when Chuck rescued Shaw in American Hero. And now in the third season, I simply love Tim's work in dealing with the spy world, mixing more and more with Chuck's everyday life and the way he reflected it in his music on the show. Notable music cues, for me at least, are present when Morgan sees the opening of the CIA base in The Beard, and in American Hero when Shaw finds out about Eve's murder. Also present in 317 when Ellie hits Casey with a frying pan. And immediately after that, when Chuck fights the two men at that undercover basement. I already know the dialogues because I always watch those parts just to listen to the music. Anyway, what are your favorite cues? Thanks for everything, and of course, you're all pretty. Bye, Jorge." So thanks so much for writing, Jorge, and I did forward your email to Tim Jones, and he was very thankful for your complimentary message. And I don't know if for me, it goes down to two cues. One of them is I think a lot of people's favorite, that love piano theme between Chuck and Sarah that was way back in the first season in the pizza scene at the end of was it Sizzling Shrimp? Was it Shrimp? Anyway, you probably know the one. Really, really touching theme. And then also the kind of Miami Vice-ish one that was in the Karina episode in season 3 when they're going into the mansion. For me, that was primarily because I was actually sitting in Tim Jones's studio when he composed that one. So obviously that made it a special experience for me. But what about you guys?
I love the adventure theme. Every time those notes, there's a couple of notes that started off, and every time that happens, I just kind of involuntarily start to get a little giddy because I know something really cool is about to happen. They're about to go down the zip line, or jump from building to building, or something like that. So that's my favorite, is the adventure theme.
I don't know if it's the same one as the 007 themes. Is that the same thing that you're talking about?
007
No.
theme.
Yeah, every once in a while, when Chuck is about to get really spy-ish,
Yes.
there'll be a little echoes of 007 theme,
Mhm.
and I love those. I think they're I don't know, they're cute.
Yeah. So and it sounds like Jorge pays a lot of attention to the music. I know for me, I need to kind of go back and rewatch to take out the dialogue. I'm following the story the first time that I watched, so I'm going to go back and watch season 3 at some point this summer, and I'm sure I'm going to be paying a lot more attention to the individual cues.
By the way, Jorge, I agree. Tim Jones is my favorite too.
Mine too. He's pretty awesome.
Mhm.
Speaking of rewatching, I forgot to mention this back in the news section that the CheckTV.net forum is rewatching several different episodes this summer on Mondays, and Happy Days is in charge of that. So if you go to the CheckTV.net forum and look, she has a thread that she sets up every week for people to just watch an episode and chat about it and enjoy it. And they started with the pilot, and I'm not sure what they're doing next week, but stop by and check that out.
Mm-hmm.
So our next email comes from Rick, and he says, we only got a brief scene with Mama B at the end of the finale, and I've gotten into a heated exchange with another fan on the Chuck board at IMDb over that scene. His view is that Mama B must be part of the ring, or there'd be no other reason for her to be getting a phone call like she did, referring to the "we need to move you" line. I even pointed out that it wasn't a ring phone that she answered, but he remains adamant. I say that's hogwash, and that it's just as likely she's in danger after Orion's death as much as Chuck and Ellie are. Obviously, neither will be proven right or wrong till next season, but what are your thoughts on this scene? Can't wait till season 4 to see more great episodes and more great podcasts. The Jeffster 2-part was fantastic, by the way. Especially loved the intro, Rick. Well, thanks, Rick,
Thanks.
for writing in. Yes, and again, props to Gray for that intro. That was killer.
Yeah.
On the Jeffster podcast.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun doing it.
My first point is never get into a debate on IMDb. It comes after never get into a land war in Asia.
Yeah.
And never get into a battle of wits with a Sicilian.
Mm-hmm.
No. Just avoid all debates on IMDb. No one's going to come out of that a winner.
Mm.
But what do you guys think? It was so ambivalent, the end. It was so ambiguous when we saw her. We don't know who called her. We don't know where she was. Some screen caps have shown that she had what appeared to be somebody's medical files pulled up on her screen that she was looking at when the phone call came in, but we couldn't really get anything more detailed than that. So what do you guys think? Is she working for the ring, or is she being protected from the ring?
Well, there's some fascinating parts of that because, first of all, I don't think she's working with the ring because it would mess things up royally if the ring was already on top of that hideout. which we're pretty confident that hideout is going to play into Chuck's world very much in season 4, and a lot of the stuff that was stretching the lines of probability this season were the fact that the ring was onto the Buy More very early, way back even as far as the Christmas episode, and yet they weren't doing anything with it. And so I think it would be just a mess if the ring already knew about that underground lair, and it wouldn't open up for Chuck to be able to work out of there, which we think is probably what's going to happen. Now, what it does raise, which is really interesting, is, well, why was she there? And so this wasn't just a warehouse gathering dust. This was an active headquarters, and she was there. So I don't know. Is she kind of a rogue spy, just like Orion was? Is she one of those Hydra or whatever those things were? Who knows? What do you guys think?
I don't know. I can't. I don't think she's part of the ring at all. I'd be very surprised to find that out. I'm of the opinion that she is being protected, just like Chuck and Ellie. But it's hard to say at this point. I didn't notice as much, and it went by so quickly that I don't know. It's hard for me to say. I really don't have an opinion on it one way or the other, except that I don't think she's part of the ring.
Yeah, and actually one thing that was interesting, if you remember how that video message to Chuck was triggered by his paranoia.
Exactly what I was about to say.
So there was a message that went to Chuck in the event of his death. It would make total sense if that could have even been a message from Orion.
Exactly. It didn't sound like his voice, but he could have run it through a disguiser. Yeah,
run it through a disguiser, or one of those other rogue spies. He could have had a message to them to say, "Get her protected in the event of my death." So,
and as paranoid as Orion was, he could have had some other spy hide her and not tell him where she was, just in case he was ever captured. And therefore, his only way to contact her would be through another person. So, yeah, that's what I was going to say. My opinion is I don't think she's ring, and I think that phone call was triggered by Orion's death, that it was something he had set up.
Yeah, and we don't have that long till we find out.
Oh, yay!
Yeah.
Well, we heard from Woody from Illinois. Yay, Illinois representative.
Yeah.
And Woody says, thanks for the podcast of the season's last episode. By the way, the third Star Wars reference that Gray could not remember is when Morgan was telling Ellie about Chuck's spy life, and she talked about John Casey being a rogue agent. Morgan tells her John Casey go to the dark side, which I remembered as soon as I read this. Keep up the good work, and thanks for everything you all do. Have a good one, and I'm looking forward to future podcasts. Woody from Illinois. Thanks, Woody.
Yeah, thanks, Woody.
Yeah. Had that been weighing on your mind, Gray?
Well, actually, you know what? Another fan wrote in and said that the third Star Wars reference was the way that the cell was set up, which apparently that detention facility was the exact same as in Star Wars.
Princess Leia.
Yeah. So there could have actually been more than 3, and who knows? Well, we know that Chris Fedak at least is a huge Star Wars fan. So let's have fun looking for those Easter eggs.
It was funny because I was thinking of this email when I was watching last weekend. They've been running the first 3 Star Wars movies, and I had a good chuckle.
Yeah.
Chuckle. See what I did there?
Well, I can't remember if I mentioned it on the podcast, but I thought an interesting summer project would be to try to find those 80s references in Chuck episodes. And actually to rewatch some of these. Like I still want to watch Spies Like Us, because I'm sure there's Spies Like Us references that I'm missing. That's something that could be really fun this summer.
Yeah.
My head nearly exploded from the whole meta Spies Like Us Chevy Chase reference in the finale.
Oh yeah.
I was just sitting here going, oh my gosh, they did not just do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they obviously have friends in high places. I mean, the fact that Chevy Chase was on the show and his kids are a fan of the show, I'm sure that they can get some permissions that other shows don't necessarily get.
Perhaps.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for writing, and we urge you to please send us your emails over the summer because it gives us something to talk about.
That's right. Otherwise, it's just us yammering on.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, that's every podcast. Ah.
Everybody's got to be good at something.
Well, we want to thank our sponsors for sponsoring us so that we can sit here and yammer. Much thanks goes out to moviemorons.com. It's a podcast about film by the Movie Morons, and you ought to check them out. With the summer blockbusters ahead, they've got a lot to discuss. So head on over to moviemorons.com. And we want to thank SyrianJunkies.de. It's the largest German language fan site out there, and they have just launched a new podcast of their own, a video podcast that's really, really impressive. It's in German, so if you want to brush up on your German, we encourage you to check it out. Again, that's SyrianJunkies.de.
Yep. And speaking of sponsors, something that we haven't really mentioned a lot on the podcast is if you have a company or product or service of some kind that you want to advertise, it's actually probably a lot less expensive than you'd think to sponsor the podcast. So just like Brunel's Web Solutions did for the last couple of podcasts, we invite, if you've got a business, or maybe you can even talk to your boss at the place that you work and find out if this is a place that you'd like your ad to go, your ad here, if you can imagine it. And also on our websites. So,
That's right.
So if you're interested in that, so are we.
And how will they contact you, Gray?
You can send an email to mail@chuckpodcast.com. So we're going to start to wrap things up. Of course, we have no spoilers this week. I don't know how we could, but as soon as we do, this is the place you'll find them. We want to remind you to check out blip.tv. That's chuckpodcast.blip.tv for all of our back catalog of episodes. And it's very, very interesting that there are some older interviews that people have forgotten that are really quite cool. Norman Buckley is one of my favorite interviews, and that was quite a while back. So if you discovered the podcast late, go back and check them out. There's some really cool stuff there.
And once again, if you have any questions or comments, or you just want to email us and tell us hello or happy summer, you can send all those to mail@chuckpodcast.com.
Yep. So that's all we have for this week, but we're going to have some cool interviews coming. Boy, I can't wait. Can you wait?
I can't wait.
I can't wait.
Cool. Well, so hopefully you can't wait, because there's going to be great stuff. So thanks so much for listening. Make sure you do send in your photos if you are at any of those conventions, and anything else related to Chuck, send in that info. We'd like to hear it. But until then, have a great week.
See you later.
Bye, Chucksters.